Are you thinking about starting your own podcast, but you're just not sure where to start? That's totally normal. Heck, I had to be seriously convinced into starting Disney Coast to Coast, and now I can't imagine my life without it. This podcast has brought me a huge amount of like-minded friends, connections, and benefits. So whenever someone asks my opinion about starting a podcast, I say go for it. If you want to start one, but you're just not sure where to start, head to youcanpodcastnow.net for free information. That's youcanpodcastnow.net.
Welcome, foolish mortals, to Disney Coast to Coast. I'm here to introduce your host, your Disney Coast to Coast host. Kindly raise your volume, please. Jeff has plenty of Disney chatter for everyone. There's no turning back now.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and today on the show, my friend Chris is joining me. Hello and welcome back, Chris.
Hello, it's good to be back.
You were here for Galaxy's Edge.
I was, yes.
So that was something brand spanking new that opened this year at Disneyland Park, but we're going back 50 years because this week, on August 9th, 2019, we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of the original Haunted Mansion.
That's pretty neat.
It is pretty darn cool, and we're going to be talking about something. I've done several episodes about the Haunted Mansion, but today we're talking about something I've never really talked about before. It's the story and song from the Haunted Mansion vinyl record that was released back in 1969 to kind of promote this new attraction. And I do want to give a shout out to listener John Eastloss, who wrote in and requested this episode. So let's jump into that conversation right now.
It's time to dive into today's Disney Dialogue.
So I am curious, Chris, what was your first experience with the Haunted Mansion? Was it a Disneyland one or was it a Walt Disney World? You grew up on the East Coast like me.
I did, yeah, no. Disneyland I never got to experience until I moved out here to California. So everything Disney was experienced through the lens of Walt Disney World in Florida. So yeah, my first experience with the Haunted Mansion would be that one there.
Okay, and were you a kid at that point, or were you like a teenager?
Oh, I was a kid. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So were you scared of the Haunted Mansion?
No, I wasn't so young that I thought that the animatronics or the ghosts or anything like that was real, you know? Same with Pirates. I'd go through and it'd be super immersive in a lot of ways and really cool and interesting, but I still knew that they were fake. So it never got me too freaked out. It was just a really fun, atmospheric ride, you know?
Cool. So you weren't scared as a kid. I don't think I ever was either, but I certainly do remember like seeing the ghosts as a kid, like in the ballroom and such, and definitely not knowing how it was done.
Yeah.
Like feeling like, oh, this is magic or this is something, you know, paranormal going on here. But knowing, yeah, they're robots. So
yeah, part of the thing that didn't really necessarily... Part of the thing that was a comfort to me was the idea that you have doom buggies, like 2 or 3 of them within eye line ahead of you, and the speakers, that you can hear, echoing from them also are playing right in your ear.
Yeah.
So it was still an illusion. You could definitely tell that this was a mass-produced illusion. You know what I mean?
Sure. I will say the thing that scared me the most as a kid, absolutely 100% for like many years, was when you start going backwards down to the cemetery. Well, so you go out the attic window and your doom buggy turns back and you lean backwards to get down. I don't know why, but I had this irrational fear of falling. Like, I just thought, we're going to fall, get loose from the track and just keep rolling down this hill at this speed. And now I ride it and I'm like, that was barely an incline.
I kind of hope that happens to me someday because I've always wanted to walk through that ride on like the emergency lights. You know what I mean? Like,
you know what would be interesting? I wonder if it has the capability to speed up the doom buggy like 8 times faster and just go through the attraction that way.
That'd be pretty awesome.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, but the audio would get sped up too, which would be weird.
Yeah, but I'm not saying like for legitimacy.
Yeah,
I'm just
just
saying
for
as a
funsies.
weird little, hey, today only we're speeding up the Haunted Mansion
That'd be pretty
8
cool.
times faster. That'd be just don't even put any audio in the Doom Buggy. Just have all the ride audio, and then it wouldn't affect audio whatsoever. It'd be. I want a fast-forwarded version of the Haunted Mansion.
Would you just open up a day at Disney where every ride was kind of fast-forwarded?
Listen, if that is an
Except for
option-
Space Mountain, then you slow it down. That one you have to go the opposite direction.
Well, Space Mountain isn't that fast to begin with. We could afford double the speed for that. So that'd be great. In any case, that's a weird idea. But I do want to mention how with the Haunted Mansion, one of the things that's really interesting about this attraction's history, the original Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, is that the attraction opened in 1969, therefore the 50th anniversary. But the production of that actual exterior building that we love and know today began in 1962. And was finished in 1963. So that sat there for 6 years, kind of as an epic advertisement, because there was a sign on the gate. I forget the specific words, but it was something about 999 happy haunts and them wanting one more. And, they're going to be opening soon for visitors and such. But the reason historically why it took so long is because in 1964, Walt and his team started creating stuff for the New York World's Fair. So that took some time. And then in 1966, Walt Disney passed away, and they were like, what are we going to do at this point? So there are reasons for it, but I mean, can you imagine? We're so impatient today. Galaxy's Edge, when they started that, what was it, like 2 years ago or 3 years ago? I was like, come on, let's go. No, that was less than 2 years ago, because 2 years ago at the expo, they announced it. So they've probably been doing construction for less than 2 years. Yet 6 years sat this mansion that people were just kind of, I'm sure, dying to go into. No pun intended.
Yeah, it would have been super cool for them to have used it during like the Halloween time and do like a haunt through there. That could have been kind of fun.
Yeah, the photo today it would have become an Instagram museum. Like, hey, just hang out on the lawn and take photos and get people excited about it. But
Yeah, 6 years is a long time.
It's a very long time.
I feel like that could definitely fall into disrepair, get a little dilapidated and stuff. I mean,
in ways, well, we'll get into this conversation, but in ways that would kind of work in its benefit, but at the same time, not for Walt's vision.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. But in any case, as I mentioned, I want to talk about the story and song from the Haunted Mansion. This was a record that was put out by Disneyland Records back in 1969, the same year that the attraction opened. They reissued it as a cassette in 1998, but they called it A Spooky Night in Disney's Haunted Mansion. And then they reissued it again in 2009 as a CD with the original title, the story and song from the Haunted Mansion. So it's kind of had several lives. If you want to hear this, I gotta be honest, I had never heard it before doing research for this. Had you ever? I had heard of it before, but never listened to it. Had you even heard of it?
I never heard of it, never listened to it. But
it has some interesting history with the attraction, because there's little elements that were supposed to be part of the attraction that weren't part of the attraction or didn't become part of the attraction.
Never made it in.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting in that way. But if you do want to listen to this, if you've never listened to it before, it's very easy to find. Go to YouTube, simply type in story and song from the Haunted Mansion, and there are full recordings on there. So do that if you would like to. But I was a little surprised, because I actually thought that this was made a little bit before the attraction opened. I didn't realize it was that same year. And it starts right off with that classic Haunted Mansion organ. So I was like, oh, okay, this is totally done in conjunction with the ride. And as you listen, I could visualize it knowing the ride so well.
Oh, absolutely. I found it to, well, there's a lot to unpack with this thing.
Sure.
For starters, look, I know it's Ron Howard, baby Ron Howard.
Yeah.
But man, that acting is stiff, man. It is a stiff listen.
There's a reason he's a director now and not an actor anymore.
It's really tough stuff. But aside from that, I just, I was laughing throughout this thing because, some of the pacing of some of the performances were just excruciatingly slow.
Well, we should mention you are a voiceover director.
Yes.
So you are even more keenly aware of some of these things.
But it was hysterical to me because the ghost host was speaking directly to Mike and Karen in the short, or in the recording. But it was just, at times, people were just speaking so slowly, and that reverb that the echo on the ghost host was distractingly obnoxious. And for the first, I'd say maybe 10 minutes of this recording, it doesn't matter if they're inside or outside. I guess once they venture deeper in, it stops. But for the first 10 minutes, there's just a dying cat being just squealing and screeching continuously. You know what I mean? And Mike and Karen never blinked. They were like, "Let's go in." If I heard that cat dying for that long inside this house, I'd never go.
Well, it does start with the narrator giving a description. I'm going to read this real quickly. He says, "Have you ever seen a haunted house? You know the kind I mean. That old dark house that's usually at the end of a dimly lit street. The owners haven't been seen for years. No one really knows why. The windows are broken and boarded and the shutters hang loose on their hinges. The trees have grown wild. Their branches brush against the sides of the weathering house, making strange noises in the night. There's a high vine-covered fence around the property. Is it there to keep somebody out, or is it there to keep something in? It's a house that people avoid walking past at night. Strange sounds come from within the walls, and it's said that eerie lights have been seen both in the attic windows and in the graveyard at the side of the house. Our story revolves around this mysterious mansion." Now, this description is interesting to me because as you listen, they're definitely describing a traditional haunted house. But have you noticed what the haunted house looks like or the haunted mansion looks like? At Disneyland, it's none of that. And that was Walt's vision of the Haunted Mansion. So it's interesting because at one point, it sounds like they did want that dilapidated house. Yet Walt Disney didn't want that in his theme park. He said, nope, we're taking care of the grounds. We're keeping it beautiful. It's the insides that are going to be all run down.
Yeah.
So I just found it very interesting that it starts out the opposite of what it is in reality.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I found to be super entertaining is I love, we've lost a little bit of an eloquence when we write stuff like that. I mean, it's such a fun description. It's so economical. It's so vivid, and there's just something about that era. You know what I mean? When you listen to old timey radio stuff, or language was just such a different beast back then.
Yeah, especially with the Haunted Mansion. Ex Atencio did a lot of the writing of the Haunted Mansion, and just this betrays an aura of foreboding, just language we don't use. But I don't even think people were talking like that back then. I just think he did really good research, and the Haunted Mansion, in my opinion, kind of has a language of its very own.
I find that back when you listen to recordings of people, back in the 60s and 50s and stuff like that, their thoughts are very direct. They know what they want to say, and they say them very, very eloquently in a lot of ways, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that with our culture, and as things have evolved, I think people have gotten a lot more scatterbrained, and that's also become, we also have, texting,
emojis,
LOLs, and everything gets shorthanded in today's day and age, and because of that, I think we lose a little bit of the majesty and magic of just speech, you know what I mean, of the written word and stuff that we don't get these days. You know what I mean? Everything is just kind of dumbed down to its basic, core.
Yeah, it's dumbed down, but not necessarily more succinct.
Oftentimes it's even more confusing. You know what I mean? Oftentimes it's more roundabout. But it was just something. I love watching old movies, black and white movies on like TCM or anything like that, because there's just something about that day and age, man. They just have a really good way about words.
Because we stupid now.
We are.
So as you mentioned, this does start with a story about a characters named Karen and Mike, who are returning home after a date. It's raining, so they run into the mansion, and that's how the story begins. I do want to say, though, if somebody really wants to do a costume for, one of the Mickey Halloween parties that is so, insider knowledge type of stuff, I want to see somebody dressed up as Karen and Mike. Now, how you would do this, no idea, because I don't think there's any drawings of them or anything. There's nothing to refer to.
There's an art book.
There's an art book that came with it.
The CD.
I don't remember seeing those two characters. There probably are somewhere, but if somebody dressed up as Karen and Mike, or better yet, if Disney had them as meet and greet characters, and it's like, who is it? It's Karen and Mike. Who? And the kids who stumbled upon the Haunted Mansion. I think that would be hilarious. Stupid, but hilarious.
Yeah.
I want to see Karen and Mike.
That'd be pretty good. Karen and Mike would be pretty fun. I like to think that Karen and Mike died in the Haunted Mansion almost immediately, and the rest of their journey was just their ghost traveling through.
Ooh, look at that. So they're still there.
Yeah, I like to think that they're still
Next time I ride through, I'm going to pick out two animatronics. I'm like, there's Karen. Oh, there's Mike.
There should just be at least two tombstones.
Yo.
You know what I mean? Throw a little reference in there.
There's a lot of stories when it goes to the Haunted Mansion, so we can make another one happen. That's cool. They hear a voice when they're inside. The doors lock behind them, and this is when we start hearing the very famous lines that I believe it was Exitencio who wrote these. When hinges creak in doorless chambers, and strange and frightening sounds echo through the halls, and they start going on with all that. And I was like, wow, this really was in conjunction with the attraction. But at this point, Thurl Ravenscroft is reading it as the narrator, and you know Thurl Ravenscroft as Tony the Tiger. He's the one who sings "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch." And in the Haunted Mansion, he's, I would say, I guess, the lead singing bust. So that's kind of cool as well that he was part of this record and then became officially part of the attraction as well.
Yeah. Right there. When hinges creak in doorless chambers. It's just such a... It takes you right there. It's so direct. It's so vivid. It's so amazing. And I just love... I mean, if you threw that copy to somebody else today, it'd be way lamer than that.
Yeah, it would be lamer, but I also feel like it wouldn't be performed as well. I don't know. There's something about the Haunted Mansion language that to me feels not right, yet I can't picture it any other way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we've become so used to it and heard it a billion times that I don't even think we really think about what's being said. As it is, when you're in the stretching room and you hear all of, that speech in there, people are saying it along with it. And it's one of those things like, have you ever really sat and thought about what you're saying? Or this language it's kind of incredible.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So after that, we hear "You will not be harmed, but you will not..." Oh, this I found interesting. "You will not be harmed." This is from the Ghost Host. And I will mention that in this recording, the Ghost Host is performed by Peter Renaday, not Paul Frees. So Paul Frees is the Haunted Mansion Ghost Host that we know and love in the attraction. So my guess is this was recorded earlier than the attraction stuff, and then they eventually got Paul Frees. I don't know if that means Peter Renaday was fired, but he has become, he's done a lot of other stuff for Disney, but people do know him from this recording as well. So kind of Pete Renaday was the original Ghost Host, I would say, because I believe the vinyl came out before the attraction. But in any case, the Ghost Host says, "You will not be harmed, but you will not be released until you take a tour of my home." Now, to me, that's weak writing, because I was like, what a weird concept for a story.
Straight up kidnapping.
Yeah, but it's like, you're kidnapped, but we're not going to do anything to you. We just want you to come hang out in the house for a while.
Yeah, but I mean, the weird thing is they kind of do stuff to him, or at least the intent seems to be there. You know what I mean? They're walking through these hallways and, things are chasing after him and they hear footsteps and a corpse is trying to escape a coffin to kind of get at him. And, there's a lot of stuff that can go awry here in this mansion for them.
Sure, but he straight out says, "You will not be harmed." It's interesting to me because it's kind of Disney, right? Like, haunted anything is kind of not on brand for what the Walt Disney Company was back in the day. Yeah. So it's like, okay, we want to do something scary and spooky. And that was the whole argument with the Haunted Mansion to begin with. The Imagineers working on it were saying, is it scary or is it spooky? And there was kind of this quote-unquote compromise, for lack of a better term, where the first half is scary and the second half is very kind of funny. It's a lot more jovial. And
well, once you get to that banquet scene and onward, the ghosts are just living life, man. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
it's like Weekend at Bernie's. You're just like watching it go down.
Did you just compare the Haunted Mansion to Weekend at Bernie's?
First of all, Weekend at Bernie's is a national treasure.
First of all, 50% of the people listening have no idea what Weekend at Bernie's is, I'm sure.
Well, you are in for a treat. And the other thing that cracks me up about stuff like this is the implications of what Mike and Karen see in this Haunted Mansion. It's gotta be it's the next morning. Have you ever thought about what those conversations are?
They're in therapy the rest of their lives.
Because it's not. I mean, just the implications of a confirmed afterlife. You know what I'm saying? Like immediately, I don't know what religion Mike and Karen are, but they might be switching the next day.
If they were atheists, they no longer are.
Yeah, it's just There's always just weird implications when you start to confirm for people these weird experiences and stuff.
So once Mike and Karen agree to go along and just, do what they're told since they're locked in anyway, we get into the stretching room gallery that we know. And, of course, our tour begins here in this ghostly gallery. And we have the whole attic hanging scene. It's revealed with the lightning. And one thing that I found interesting here is this is where we meet the Black Raven who flies into the room. And I believe the first line that Raven says is, "He chose the coward's way out," referring to the man who committed suicide. But I like this because I've always heard the story about how the Raven was actually the original ghost host, for lack of a better term. This was the character or the animatronic that was kind of going to tell the story. And you see him still, him or her, I don't know if it was a boy or a girl, but you see this Raven. Yeah.
No, the Raven at least in the recording is an old hag.
Yeah, it was female voice.
Yeah.
But in the attraction, I think that just causing the attraction now. But in any case, you will see the Raven in certain spots.
Yeah.
But it's not telling a story in any way, shape, or form. But that was one of the original ideas, and this record is kind of just proof of that. So
in the ride, the Raven has red eyes as well, which I'm just saying, which is creepy as hell.
So after that, we go into the hallway. That's kind of the cue now. Now, I like this because, once again, he describes it, the windows on the left with the lightning outside and the portraits on the right. If you are familiar with this attraction, it paints the exact picture you're familiar with. But one of the things that I loved that was said was, when the lightning flashes, these portraits changed. Now, this is interesting because this is true today, but not so much back in the day. So today, when you're walking through there and the lightning flashes, the portraits change with the flash of lightning. Back in the day, because I can remember this as a kid, they were gradual. They were fade in and fade out. It wasn't really controlled by the lightning at all. So that whole changing with the flash of lightning is a newer effect, probably a decade or 15 years ago maybe at this point. But they say it right here in this original record, like that was what they originally wanted or intended. And I think it's cool that, now we have that.
Yeah, I think it's super cool. And it's a mix, because like you said, that might be a newer effect, but, some of those things, like the banquet hall scene, is an effect that's been done, it was like invented, it was like the 1800s or something, you know what I mean? Illuminating something and reflecting it on glass and want to give it the spectral feel is something that's really old in terms of a technique.
Pepper's Ghost is what it's called. The question for you, do you know, so that effect, the Pepper's Ghost, if you don't know, in the grand banquet scene, we're going to ruin it right here for you. Below you is the animatronics, and then you're seeing a reflection of it in the glass. Where in the attraction do you see the opposite of that, where you're actually looking at an animatronic and seeing a reflection of yourself? We're getting to trivia early, I guess.
So wait, what's the question?
So in the banquet hall scene, you know how what you're looking at is a reflection of the animatronics in the glass. Mm-hmm. There is a point in the Haunted Mansion where you see the opposite of that. So you're looking at an animatronic, but seeing a reflection of yourself. It's like the reverse Pepper's Ghost.
The reverse Pepper's Ghost.
I'm going to spoil it for you, okay?
Yeah, go for it.
It's the Hitchhiking Ghosts at the end. So when you're going by those mirrors, what you're looking
That's
at...
an animatronic behind the glass?
That's an animatronic behind the glass that you're looking at, and you're just seeing a reflection of yourself with the robotic figure. Isn't that cool?
That's super cool.
Yeah, so fun little fact there. In any case, I do find it funny that in this recording they included the line, "We spirits are sensitive to light," because this was one of those lines that although it works within the attraction and makes sense storyline-wise, it's always been a line that to me meant just don't take flash pictures. So I'm like, it's odd to me that they decided to include that in this recording. That was weird. We go into the old conservatory. They say you could see outside to the graveyard. That's something I wish we could see in the attraction. When they were describing that, I was like, man, I kind of wish we had that view at some point, because we don't.
No, because when you go through that conservatory, it just kind of is a fogged glass, basically, right?
Yeah.
But it would be really cool if they had some kind of like little tiny miniature graveyard that kind of was beyond the glass, that was lit kind of eerily and stuff.
Yeah.
And just gave it a kind of forced perspective feel, to it.
Yeah.
Made it all look really small and stuff, but that would have been a lot of fun.
And then they say from each door they pass, natural and unnatural sounds escaped. Once again, it just paints the picture of everything we know about the attraction.
Let me ask you this really quick.
Yeah.
In that conservatory room, we're talking about kind of
So
old
the conservatory,
techniques.
I'm listening. When I hear the conservatory room, I'm thinking the room that has the coffin.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But we're talking about different techniques and stuff. How would you feel if they updated that room so that the glass panels of the conservatory were really kind of, LED screens, so to speak,
honestly,
and then beyond, and they could put whatever rain effects and everything else that they want on there? Would you like that, or would you not like the fact that they changed a classic ride for for modern effects.
They've already done that. They've already done that with The Bride, and they've already done it with the Hatbox Ghost. So I would be okay with it.
But those were additions, though, weren't they? Like it wasn't like a classic thing that they changed.
Well, I mean, the Hatbox Ghost we learn about in this recording, so we'll talk about that. The Bride was there, but they did update it to newer projection technology. I'd be okay with that because I honestly feel like projection and LED right now we're at a pretty good place with it as far as convincing. And as long as it wasn't bright, that's the difficulty with using an LED screen in the Haunted Mansion, is it's an innately dark attraction. So to put an LED in there would just kind of immediately be out of place.
Maybe it's projection then.
But if they put an LED or a projection and like had filters over it, like scrims or something, so that it just didn't come across as red, I think it would be cool to see some depth out that window.
Yeah.
I would love it, personally.
Cool.
I think it would be cool. Now we get into the Seance Room with Ms. Madame Leota, where she does her whole creepies and crawlies speech, and this, I'm pretty sure, is the exact same recording you hear in the attraction.
Sounds identical.
Well, when she does that, creepies and crawlies, I don't know if you've ever noticed, she like cracks. And I always notice this in the attraction. Her voice cracks, and it cracks in the exact same spot in this recording. So I'm convinced it is Eleanor Audley, I know, for both. So I'm convinced it's the same exact thing we hear in the attraction, which is kind of cool. Like, I love how these are intertwined, but also separate.
But it's interesting to me what they picked to be exactly the same and what they chose not to be.
Well, I think my guess, if I had to guess, is all of this was meant to be exactly the same. And then, because they're not going to record, my guess is they probably thought that they were going to use the Ghost Host recording from this, and they probably like, it's just not as good as it could be.
Like, do you think they recorded the Madam's dialogue first for the recording, and then they just used it for the ride? Or do you think they recorded it for the ride and then used it in the recording?
No, I think if I had to guess, and I don't know this for a fact, my guess is that they recorded it for this vinyl record with the intent of using it in the attraction. That's my guess. What would you think?
When was the record released?
1969.
And that's the same year?
Same year as the attraction.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like a record is a lot easier to lay down and a lot faster to work with. So part of me wants to say that in order, if they're gonna open up the same year and stuff like that, I don't know. I just feel like there's more thought that goes into the immersion of the ride that they're gonna want to get ahead of that a little bit quicker. So I don't know. There's some stuff in there that I just kind of feel like, I don't know.
You think they recorded it and they're like, oh, we've already recorded this stuff for the ride, let's use some of that in the
I don't think
record.
they would care necessarily if it sounded a little out of place on a record. They would definitely care whether or not the recording fit within the confines of the ride. And the only way that they would get to that place of confidence is if they had tested it and like recorded it and felt like it was in a good spot. I don't know if they'd be like, let's wing it on a record and just like pop it in and see how it goes, but maybe they did.
I don't know, but I'm convinced it's the same exact recording, which is kind of cool.
Oh, it's definitely, yeah.
Now we get to the ballroom, and they do say in the record, it seemed to be a birthday party. And this is, strangely enough, I'd never thought of this before. Now, I know that every time we go through, I see that ghost blowing out those birthday candles, but I had never... And I'd never thought, oh yeah, they're celebrating a birthday. That's what they're doing here.
Which is awkward for ghosts.
A little weird, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're celebrating a death day. I don't know. But, I mean, they're in the record, they flat out say it seemed to be a birthday party. So...
See, they have an out then. If they said seemed to be...
Yeah, I guess so.
They were just kind of like, us mortals, we don't know what holidays they have in the afterlife.
Yeah, but I never thought about that. Had you?
No, I think...
You can visualize that ghost blowing out the candles,
Oh,
right?
yeah. It's the old lady at the head of the table that's just leaning forward, yeah.
Yeah. So that's I found that weird. That was a weird thing I noticed in this record. And then, once again, details that we've come to know and love that they talk about in this record. When she rocked back, when she rocked forward, she disappeared, talking about the old lady and the rocking chair. And then ghosts playing on the chandelier. This is all stuff that anybody that's ridden the ride, it's just stuck in their brain, yet they had it on record. And it's, I don't know, I just think it's kind of cool how... Everything was planned, you know?
Yeah, and there was other weird stuff in there, too, like ghost riding bikes and other things that never made it in. You know what
Some
I mean?
of that's in the cemetery. There's a lot of weird stuff.
A king and a queen on a seesaw. I don't remember that.
No, that's in the cemetery.
A king and a queen?
I'm pretty sure.
And why would a king and a queen be there? Is a
I don't know.
It's a haunted house or mansion, but either way, it's not a haunted house.
There's a lot of weird stuff in the cemetery. Take a look the next time you go through. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in the cemetery.
King and queen seems out of place.
I'm pretty sure it's there.
I'm sure it is, or maybe it is, but I'm just saying it's weird.
Yeah, it seems weird.
We're not in a royal setting. Why would they be in the cemetery?
Then we come face to face with a ghost dressed as a bride. Of course, we know that character now has gone through some upgrades. And then they mention the Hatbox Ghost in the attic. Now, the story of the Hatbox Ghost, as any good Haunted Mansion fan knows, is that this was the introduction of the Hatbox Ghost, and for some reason, people fell in love with this character. I think it actually had more to do with the ride. There's a couple stories, but supposedly the Hatbox Ghost was there when the attraction opened, but closed very, 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 very soon after. Whether it was days or weeks, there's conversation about that. But it disappeared. They couldn't get this effect to work the way that they wanted it to. So they got rid of it. And for the 60th anniversary at Disneyland in 2015, we got the Hatbox Ghost back. He is now a permanent fixture in there. And it's become such an iconic character of this attraction. I just think it's so cool that, he was back on this record.
Yeah, and by the way, I think the Hatbox Ghost artwork that they used on this record, or with the book that came with this art, is the same image that I think they use, that I saw over at that Haunted Mansion display that they have going on now.
Oh, at Disneyland? Yeah, and you can actually see the portrait of the Hatbox Ghost in the hallway with all the doors. You can see, if you look at the pictures on the wall, you'll see drawings of the Hatbox Ghost. He's always been part of the lore. He just hasn't been seen until
according
recently.
to this, he was the husband of the bride.
Is that what it said? I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, I believe, and I could be wrong about this, but I believe they said, and with each beating, and with each heartbeat of his, ghostly bride, his hat would reappear, his head would reappear into the box and then disappear again, or whatever. I think, because he's in kind of like an old-timey tux, too, with that.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a top hat on, so.
Yeah, and I feel like that was, at least in this album, I feel like that was the husband of the bride there.
The questions about the lore of the Haunted Mansion, there's so many different versions of the story. It's very confusing. And, you kind of have to just pick and choose which ones you believe and which stories, and whether there's a Master Gracie and all this different stuff. It's weird. But this, as far as I'm aware, was the first telling of a story with the Haunted Mansion. So that's got to mean something.
Sure, and I found it always weird to think that the bride and the groom here were just kind of relegated to the attic. You know what I mean? Like, was it their mansion? Were they the last inhabitants?
Well, maybe they just kept the wedding dress in tux up there. They were saving it.
Yes.
So that's where they hang out.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. And then, of course...
I also found it weird that Mike and Karen never got pushed out of the window like the ride's kind of theme goes.
Yeah, they find
a stairwell down.
Yeah.
And there's another weird thing early on, after you go down the first main hallway there, as you would with the ride, and get on the Doom Buggies, there was a secondary kind of mist-filled hallway that never made it to the ride that they go down again, too. So, there's just different little additions here and there that was kind of fun.
We get to the old caretaker holding a lantern over in the cemetery with his dog cowering, which is cool. Of course, we start hearing the Grim Grinning Ghost song. This sounded like Madame Leota, like the same recording we hear today in the attraction. So there's definitely some double duty going on here.
Maybe the reason why the Disneyland mansion is nice and new looking on the outside is because they had to justify the caretaker.
Of the cemetery?
I mean, of the ground. It's not just the cemetery caretaker. I would imagine he would caretake also the...
But he's also in the Haunted Mansion in Florida, and their grounds are not kept as well.
Well, he should be fired.
He should be fired in Florida, but good job here at Disneyland.
At Disneyland, he's
doing
on
a
point.
Fantastic job. All right. I want to see him out there mowing the lawn one of these days.
No, you don't.
With his dog.
That's too real.
It's too real.
Yeah, it's like I want to see him paying a mortgage bill. It's like, do we?
So we get to the Grim Grinning Ghost song. Of course, this is iconic when it comes to the Haunted Mansion. It's been there since day one. And as I mentioned earlier, the narrator of this record is also the singer of that, the lead singer in the cemetery. And then toward the end of that, we see the Raven again, and he says, "Beware, my friends," or she says, I should say, "Beware, my friends, they may try to follow you home." So this is kind of the introduction of the Hitchhiking Ghosts, which we've all come to know and love, and is such an iconic part of the attraction at this point. But once again, the Raven's the one doing it. And then finally the ghost host says, "Did you enjoy your visit? I told you you would not be harmed. Thank you for spending some time with us." I find this so weird. Once again, I feel like this is the Disney trying to be on brand. The ghost host is like being polite to these people who are trapped inside this haunted house. You know, I hope. Did you enjoy your visit? Really? Does he care? I mean, he's a ghost trapping people in a haunted house.
Yeah, it's best not to think too much about it. You know what I mean? It's like the caretaker seems like befuddled and in shock, but like, how long's he been there? He's just now noticing ghosts? Mike and Karen were in there, and they got the full view. They got a peek under the skirt right away. You know what I'm saying? And by the way, if anybody's listening, Disney, if you guys want to do like a spin-off show in which some of those ghosts do follow Mike and Karen home, and that's a whole other story.
Wait a second, I thought Mike and Karen were dead inside.
That's one of my
option one.
theories. That's
Okay.
option one, is that they're dead inside.
Okay.
But if they actually do escape and they were warned, hey, just so you know, they may try to follow you home, I'd watch it.
Disney Plus? Disney Plus?
Cartoon show.
Disney Plus. There we go.
Yeah, it's like kind of like it's like adopting stray dogs, but they're ghosts.
All right.
It's kind of fun, right?
Sure, I'd watch it.
Look, I'm spitballing. I'm just coming up with the idea now.
I like it.
We're safe in the nest. This is just a
And for everybody listening.
yeah.
And then the ghost host says, I have to go now. It's midnight. I found that interesting too. Apparently ghosts have curfews.
Well, isn't that the witching hour?
I guess so. That's what I was curious about, because that's something you never touch upon in the attraction. Like,
Yeah.
oh, is this? They only come out when it's dark, and then at they come out in the dark, and then it's midnight, and they have to go away again.
Does the clock with the devil tail?
Yeah, it has 13.
Does that chime at all?
It has, I think, 13 times. It has 13 marks on it. You mean
That's
right before
super
latest?
weird. That's super creepy.
Well, it's because 13's an unlucky number.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. There's that. But in any case, the ghost host has a midnight curfew. So he's very much like Cinderella.
Or Dracula.
Or does Dracula have a midnight curfew? No.
Not midnight, but
it's when the
he's got-
sun
he's got a
rises.
ticking clock, you
Yeah,
know what
when
I
the
mean?
sun rises, yeah. In any case, this record, I am curious for you, would this record have made you interested in checking out the attraction? If you heard it and hadn't gone through the attraction, do you feel like it was a good piece of marketing?
I would say that if done today, right, with higher fidelity and a little bit better production value, and I heard it today, yes, absolutely. I think they could definitely give me some kind of an interesting, frightening, chilling kind of, peek at what the ride might hold. And I definitely would, I think, go there. And so I guess back in the day, this was that for it.
Yeah.
But if I were somebody, I don't know. I mean, I kind of appreciate those old-timey things nowadays, so I might still be interested in it. But I feel like kids today, if they heard this, the way that like black and white movies to them are just old and
Sure.
look old, and they don't want anything to do with them. I think if they heard this, they'd be like, no.
Yeah, it definitely sounds old to me. It sounds like it was produced a while ago. But the thing I can't answer this question for myself, neither can you, but we've experienced the attraction. So for me, I can just so vividly see everything they're talking about. And I'm curious if it does that for somebody who's never experienced the Haunted Mansion. But I feel like even if you've never experienced it, if you're a Disney fan, you've probably watched it on YouTube. It's just such a part of the consciousness now.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. In today's culture, what would the modern day equivalent of this be? Would it be something like launching a 5-minute long introductory animated teaser video on like Disney Plus streaming to advertise for the ride that leaves off right where the adventure picks up? Like, for example, with Marvel Land or whatever they're going to do there, or any other attractions that they might pump out. Like, would they just kind of, if it is acting as an advertisement, is that the best way to kind of reach
It should
their
be a
audience these
podcast.
days? But I don't know.
I don't think that's what they would do, but it would be a podcast if you're going to do something like this. But
I'm saying the modern day version of this.
It would be a quick YouTube video.
YouTube or now Disney Plus?
No, probably YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Disney Plus, you'll only be reaching the people who are paying for it. If it's on YouTube, anybody can see it.
I'd be interested if they did stuff like that, because I know that there's other, there are other industries that utilize this kind of stuff. For example, I don't know, Hearthstone, the card game for Blizzard, when they come out with an expansion for the card game, usually release a little 2 to 3 minute long, fun teaser animated video type thing, advertising it, and it usually gets people pretty excited about the expansion and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, everything Galaxy's Edge was social media. It's short video clips that you put on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. So that probably be how they do it.
I would love to see more of that kind of stuff.
Long form doesn't exist much though when it comes to, like, I mean,
2 minutes.
no, I'm talking about long form. Like this record is 30 minutes long.
Oh yeah.
Like you don't get that anymore,
Yeah.
and that's the kind of stuff I kind of miss. But people's attention spans are just horrible.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah, but in any case, those of you listening, yours is not because you're sitting through a long podcast, so you're of higher intelligence than most.
And the ones that dropped out.
Well, they'll never hear this, but dumb, just dumb.
No.
I love how you're worried about offending people who have stopped listening,
You know.
just in case they come back.
Yeah. You can always win them over.
Okay.
We'll get them with the next one, Jeff. We'll get them with the next one.
I love it. You know what this record did do for me? It made me want to walk through the attraction.
Yeah.
Because, listening about Mike and Karen walking through this and all the things happening around them, I'm like, gosh, I really want to walk through it. And I've always wanted to walk through it, but this even more so. I was like, I really want to walk through this.
What if Disney did, in addition to having the Haunted Mansion ride, what if every Halloween they opened up a Haunted Mansion haunt?
That'd be great. I would
So you
love
could
that.
walk through
I would love a Haunted Mansion maze walkthrough.
Yeah.
That would make my day.
Yeah.
That'd be
pretty
great.
awesome.
That'd be fantastic. A little bit redundant.
Yeah, but here's the great part about it. It would be not really redundant.
I wanna see the rooms
Because Nightmare Before
You know what?
Christmas is the Haunted Mansion ride. You could do
That's
the
true.
haunt
That's true.
as like, Mike and Karen.
I'm going to tell you what I want. I want the hallway of doors, and I want each of those doors to lead into a different maze, leading us into a room of the mansion we've never seen before.
That'd be pretty neat.
Open the doors.
Yeah, that's also part of the spin-off TV show.
There we go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the unknown door. What will we call them? The unknown rooms, the forgotten rooms. I'm spitballing here.
Yeah. That's for our listeners to decide, okay?
Okay.
You guys come up with a title.
Okay, gosh, that'd be amazing. I would love that. But in any case, I want to walk through it. I do want to mention, as you touched upon, on the album cover, we do see the Hatbox Ghost. We do see the Raven. Once again, they were supposed to be big parts of this attraction. So I do want to talk about another recording that came out. Now, this was years before the mansion. This was actually released in 1964 and re-released in 1973. It was called Chilling Thrilling Sounds of the Haunted House. It wasn't even called the Haunted Mansion at that point. It was a record that Disney put out. It didn't mention the mansion. I don't know if it was supposed to have anything to do with the mansion or not, but it's basically a sound effects record.
Yeah, they tried to kind of touch upon the same format as this first recording that we're discussing here, because they have someone that kind of leads you into each sound effect in a way with a little tiny notion of a story. But man, and what cracks me up is it's supposed to be sounds of a haunted house. At one point, they're literally on the Martian surface of Mars.
Yes.
So I don't understand kind of where it went off the rails,
Well-
but it gets there.
How do you feel about the Chinese water torture track?
Yeah, that one was just weird as hell.
I'm
And
pretty sure
racist.
horribly racist. Yes. I was like, are you kidding me? By the way, folks, if you want to listen to this one, once again, head to YouTube. Just simply type in Chilling Thrilling Sounds of the Haunted House, and you will find this full recording as well.
Do not expect chilling or thrilling.
No.
But yeah.
If the other one is enjoyable, this one is not enjoyable.
This one,
No, it's not enjoyable.
no, it's kind of like listening to a baby crying.
Yeah, well, here's some of the tracks.
You just want to put it out of its misery in some respects.
Here are some of the situations we're listening to: an ocean liner hitting rocks, an idiotic lumberjack, a man crossing an unsafe bridge, someone lighting a stick of dynamite, and a spaceship landing on Mars, plus that infamous Chinese water torture track and more. So, not the greatest.
I'm not sure who they were aiming for on that.
I don't know either.
I wouldn't necessarily just like put that bad boy on loop at my haunt because you're on Mars at one point.
You know
and,
what I want? Me being the Halloween fan I am, I want to see somebody take just this and turn it into a walkthrough haunt. Like, each room is one of these tracks, and they've just got to create something spectacular.
It felt very improv to me. It felt like they got actors in a booth and they're like, go, and people were just like, I
think it's
and they're screaming, and they threw some reverb on it, and they were like, it's haunted.
I think I was reading that a lot of it was stuff that Disney had from various projects, and they just put on a record. So it's not great. Just going to say that.
Yeah, really not.
Before we get going here, I do want to talk to you a bit about the iconology of the Haunted Mansion. And, I mean, I think arguably you could say the Haunted Mansion is the ultimate haunted house. We see it being recreated so many times in Halloween decorations, just generic non-Disney Halloween decorations. I can't tell you how many versions of the caretaker in the cemetery with his lantern I've seen, or just the clock with the hand going across. There's so much iconology from this attraction. I'm kind of curious what specifically sticks out to you.
My favorite part of that ride, I think, is I just love the effect of it. Is the shadow organist that's playing in the attic?
Oh,
no, wait,
the silhouette. Yeah,
is he in the attic? Or is he in the
he's a
conservatory?
pianist. If you're talking, the organist is in the ballroom.
No, so not the organist.
The pianist in the
He's
attic.
one of my favorites.
Now, I don't think that was an original opening day thing, but I agree. I think that is a spectacular effect. In Florida, they do it a little bit differently. You see the instrument. It's kind of set up how the coffin is with a, "Let me out of here," where it's over to it's on the side, and so the silhouette is going down on the floor. Whereas in the attic, it's kind of on the wall and on the piano. It's done differently. I think it's done better here in Disneyland. But yes, it's a great effect.
It's one of my favorite ones.
I love that. But it is funny how many carnival rides or anything, just Halloween decorations, they recreate legal versions to sell that aren't quite Disney, but you know exactly what they're going for. And that's kind of amazing that for a 50-year-old attraction.
Yeah, they just tapped into some of that, primal, creepy, spooky stuff that we all love,
They did, but they also made it haunted house. They made it the haunted house we all think of. At one point, it didn't all exist. We didn't necessarily think of, I don't know,
It's wholesome creeps and horror to me versus where things have eventually evolved to, which was more of the gore stuff and slasher stuff. I love the idea of just of shadows and ghosts and
it's creepy.
And stuff.
Yeah.
It's creepy and weird, but in an iconic way. Yeah.
I wouldn't. I'm not gonna lie. If they wanted to get rid of Haunted Mansion Holiday and do a splatter slasher version and just make it very bloody in there, even if it was all matte projection blood, I'd kind of love to see that. Whose blood would it be? Oh, I don't care. Coming out of the doors, I'd love to see a really thrilling Haunted Mansion.
I don't know about that.
Or just see, or even some other company. I want Universal to go there and be Haunted Manor. And it's basically scene for scene the Haunted Mansion, but gored out.
Yeah.
That would be that actually, they should do that for Halloween Horror Nights. That would be spectacular.
What would it be? Would it be kind of would you ride through the Haunted Mansion and you'd see, or a walkthrough?
Yeah.
But you'd walk through and each room would be one of the murders that have happened over the years there. You know what I'm saying?
What? I don't.
So you get a little sampling throughout history, if you will, of some of the atrocities that have occurred at the Haunted Mansion.
We can see the king and queen and how they died.
There's no king and queen.
We can see
that was clearly a Halloween party gone awry.
The first thing you're gonna see is the hanging man in the attic, and you're gonna feel the blood drip down on you. It's gonna be spectacular.
I don't know about the blood. It might be urine, because if he hung himself,
oh my gosh,
it wouldn't be really.
Halloween. Anybody at Universal listening? This is gold. I'm telling you right now. I'm being 1,000% serious. I might be a little ridiculous with some of the details, but the concept of a Halloween Horror Nights walkthrough maze called Haunted Manor that is a blatant ripoff of the Haunted Mansion, but done in a gory fashion, that's money right there.
Yeah, you'd have some serious lines there.
Yeah, lines. I thought you meant legal lines to cross. No, the people would lose their minds.
Yeah, legal. You don't have to worry about legal. By the time you get cease and desist, it's over.
Well, not only that, but they'd have nothing to cease and desist. It would just...
Spoof? Falls under spoof?
No, it's not even that it's a spoof. You wouldn't be doing the exact same thing. It would just be these Halloween decorations that are created that it's different, but you know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, there's a way to do it.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be fun.
Oh, I'm so excited about this. That's the best thing to come out of this podcast right now. This is fantastic. I love it. Anyway, let's move on.
I just also want to say, the Raven to me is a weird thing. In the scope, in the terms of the Haunted Mansion,
it's a little weird. Yeah,
it's weird because now we're talking about.
Well, which maybe that's why it was cut.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, if that's the way, if that's the reason it got cut, then that's good. But in the recording, at least, the idea, it's one thing to bite off the whole like ghost inspectors and all that kind of fun stuff that you're experiencing throughout this ride and throughout the recording, but it's a whole new element when you're talking about, essentially, body snatching and like putting human souls in animal bodies and they can talk with animal vocal. It's just weird.
Disney animals like to talk. That's just a thing.
Yeah, I guess.
Anyway, before we get some trivia, I do want to mention I said, did you hear that?
Yeah.
I do want to mention, if you are a fan of the Haunted Mansion, you should check out episode 438 of Disney Coast to Coast, where I did a whole episode about the Haunted Mansions around the world, around the different Disney parks, as well as on episode 418, I did an episode about Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, Tom Sawyer Island, and how they're all connected storyline-wise. As I mentioned, the Haunted Mansion has had various different story versions of it, so that's a pretty interesting episode. Episodes 418 and 438 of Disney Coast to Coast for you Haunted Mansion fans out there. But I think that means it's trivia time! All right, Chris, do you want to hit me with a trivia question first, or shall I hit you?
I'm going to hit you with the trivia first.
Okay.
All right. I have a feeling you're going to know all these because, well, it's you. But just in case, I'm going to try and I'm going to throw some curveballs at you.
Okay.
What are the 3 names of the Hitchhiking Ghosts?
I don't know, and I should. I've heard people say them before. I don't know, and I know I've known it before. They're just not something I remember. What are the names of the Hitchhiking Ghosts?
So the
Ferdinand,
hitchhikers at the end
I'm
of
gonna guess. Wait a sec. Ferdinand, Fernando,
You're already way
and
off.
Frank.
No.
I think
Why are they all F's in your mind?
I just wanted to do that.
Okay. No, they're officially named Ezra, who's the
Okay.
tall one with the hat.
Okay.
You got Gus, which is the one with the ball and chain, and you have Phineas,
Okay.
who was the one with the carpet bag.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I don't know when that was introduced or whether it was officially. I don't know if it was a comic book or what, but I'm pretty sure like the pop vinyl figures of them, they call them that. So like Disney has definitely approved and adopted those as the names. I just don't know the origins of that.
Got it. All right.
Did you have an? I'll hit you.
I got more. We can go one for ones here.
Well, I've only got really one for you because you kind of knew the first one. I was going to say who performed the role of Mike on the record, but you knew it was Ron Howard. So I'll move on to what was the first film that Ron Howard directed for Disney? It's a little bit of a trick.
I don't know. Pete's Dragon.
Nope, it wasn't under a Disney label. It was under their Touchstone Pictures label. In fact, it was the first Touchstone Pictures film.
Really?
Yeah. And it was a mega hit for
I
Disney.
don't know.
It inspired the name of an attraction, although it has nothing to do with this movie.
No idea.
Splash.
Really?
Yes. Ron Howard directed Splash for Touchstone Pictures. That was the first Touchstone Pictures film, and it was a huge hit. Starred Daryl Hannah and Tom Hanks. And the reason Splash Mountain is called Splash Mountain is because Splash was a hit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So wait, it's named Splash Mountain because Splash was a hit, not because you get splashed?
Correct. It was originally called like a Zippity Doo Dah Run or something like that. So, I forget the specifics, but
I
it's
say we
something
bring
like
it
that.
back.
And Michael Eisner was like, Splash was a big hit. We should call it Splash Mountain. And the story goes that the Imagineers were like, as long as we don't have to stick a mermaid in here, fine. Like, not that they had the final say or anything, but yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's very weird. Give me some more. You got some more.
All right, I got another one for you. All right, so in the stretching room, does the ceiling go up or does the floor go down?
Depends on where you're talking about.
Ooh, okay.
It goes down at Disneyland because we're going underground to get to we're going under Disneyland to get to the attraction. At Walt Disney World, the water table is too high, so you can't go down, so the room is stretching up. In Tokyo, I think it stretches up. I'm not up for Tokyo. Hong Kong doesn't have a Haunted Mansion. It has
What about Paris?
Phantom Manor. I want to say it's down. I think it goes down.
Yeah. California and Paris is down. Tokyo and Florida is up.
Boom.
Nice.
Got that
Nice,
one.
nice.
You love the trivia. Keep going.
Well, this one you already know, but this is an easy one. I'll just lob it at you. But the pipe organ was used in what film originally?
At Disneyland, that is from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's see. Which other Disney character can be spotted within the Haunted Mansion's graveyard?
Oh, Mr. Toad in Florida.
Because they
got rid of the attraction at Fantasyland, which now is Winnie the Pooh, and they took the Mr. Toad and they put him in the cemetery at the Walt Disney World Cemetery, yeah. In the pet cemetery, yeah.
Let's see, what else? Do you know where the hidden Mickey is in the Haunted Mansion?
Ooh, I know where there's a hidden Donald. Oh, the hidden Mickey is some of the plates in the ballroom scene, yeah.
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 All right.
Are you done yet, or are you gonna keep going?
I'm gonna see what else I got.
Okay, let's see. You stumped me on the first one, so you already won.
What is Phantom Manor's storyline?
Oh, theirs is very deep with the bride. The bride's a huge part of the story there. I don't know more specifics than that, though.
That's more or less it. It's basically an ill-fated bride that's haunted by a malevolent spirit. But that kind of seems more in line a little bit with the Disney movie.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. The 2003 film definitely has a lot of the Phantom Manor stuff. I will say, folks, if you've never...
Wait.
What?
Is that character you know how there's like two housekeepers in the Disney film?
Yeah.
Is the guy from The Princess Bride there?
Inconceivable.
Yeah, is he the Hatbox Ghost?
I don't think so. Oh. Maybe.
He's wearing similar stuff.
I mean, in the world of Disney, he's really just Rex in Toy Story.
Yeah, true.
Anyway, guys, I think anything else you want to add? Any more questions, or are you good?
No, I think you got all my trivia stuff.
Okay.
Everything else would be too easy for you.
Fantastic. Folks, I want to remind you, for our social media, head to DisneyCoastToCoast.com. You can find it all right there. Whatever social media you're on, if we're there, it's at DisneyCTC, DizneyCTC. And if you head to DisneyCoastToCoast.com, you can get your gift of America's Hidden Mickeys, which is a list of lesser-known Disney destinations around the USA that you may just want to check out. I highly suggest that you do that there. Other than that, folks, happy 50th anniversary to Disneyland's Haunted Mansion, an epic attraction that, it's one of those ones you actually really always want to hit it when we go. It's one of
the two rides I always want to do, Pirates and Haunted Mansion.
Even over Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I've
classic for you.
I can't tell you the last time I went on Indy. I like Indy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's okay. It's fun.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I like it. But I really love Haunted Mansion.
Cool.
I really love Pirates.
Well, a happy anniversary to the Haunted Mansion, and folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.